Alright, what's up guys? So today I'm going to be doing a product review of the Haix Protector Ultra tree climbing boot. So if you want to zoom in, or come closer I should say, talking to filmer Mark. So a little bit of a disclaimer. I glued mine up here with a glue gun because they started to rip here. That's why it looks like that. And I've been climbing with these boots for over a year, and I wanted to review them right away because I really like them, but I thought, I'll wait a year of work in the field and give you guys my thoughts. So I don't use these on the ground, first and foremost. And after a year, I've done probably around 130 to 150 jobs with these boots, all climbing, and the sole is still in really good condition. It's got a little bit of a raised heel, a little bit, and that's still there. And again, all the treads are still there. There's no wear along the bottom. I mean, there's a little bit of wear that started to happen after a year, and that's just in the fusing here, the rubber, and a little bit of wear here. And what happened was that here it's just like breathable nylon mesh. So what happened was I had scraped the back against some sharp bark several times, and this only happened after a year. And it happened because I was wearing climbing pants with elastic cuffs, and the elastic cuffs, just like on these pants, they kept on coming up higher than the boots, and they didn't protect the boots. So that's another thing. I'm going to review those pants also, because there's a lot to be said about a mundane detail like that. So anyway, that's just a disclaimer. So they don't come all fucked up looking like this. This is after I glued it, and I glued it basically, even though this isn't waterproof, I glued it not only to keep water out, but to cauterize the wound. And it's not pretty, but I've been gluing skate shoes for a fucking long time. So, alright, and another thing too, this is my little foot loop for my knee ascender. So that doesn't come with the boot, there's no clip in. And alright, so first things first, these boots are predominantly for spiking. That's their main use. But they have a good sole, and according to the manual, they're a forestry boot. So you can use them all around for everything, but mainly they're for spiking. I've used them for trimming, I've used them for SRT. As you can see, this loop is size large, so it has a hard time going around, but it goes around. And anyway, I'll talk more about that later. So the thing is, if you wear these on the ground, if you walk in these, they don't bend here. And you can see I've started to wear mine on the ground because they're getting quite worn out now. I'll explain that later also. So mine actually wear out a little bit, but if you've ever worn ski boots, not snowboarding boots, ski boots, like that's what it's more similar to, I find, because when you walk, it doesn't bend here. You really walk like this. So in order to make it more comfortable to walk on the ground, you literally have to force the boots to bend in ways that they're not made to bend. So word to the wise, don't wear these on the ground, especially in an urban environment. Don't wear them on cement. If you can get away with it, don't, because that's going to wear out the soles. It's going to fuck them up super early, and you want to keep them a long time because they're pretty expensive at approximately, I believe, $450 plus tax Canadian. So, but that doesn't mean anything. I've seen them for $500 US. I've seen them for 550 pounds in England. And yeah, so, take care of them. You want them to last a really long time. So, even though they're predominantly for spiking, like I said, they're not really like an SRT boot, like the Dreyer boots, which are kind of like hiking boots. They're not even high tops. They're like mid-cut hiking boots, no steel toe, no chainsaw protection, no waterproof membrane, no Gore-Tex, no nothing. No raised heel for spikes, just made to be worn with a foot ascender, or without even, just for scrambling around in the canopy. Now, these are not they, but considering how bulky they are, they're very bulky, but I have wide feet. I tried the Scafell boots, and they're too narrow for me. I couldn't wear them, and that's another. That's, I guess, the competitor. But I like these ones better because these ones have Gore-Tex, which is fucking huge. Because a lot of companies have their version of Gore-Tex, which is just basically a membrane that has really small holes in it, small enough to wick the sweat away from your feet, but too small to let water in from the outside. So your feet do get hot in it, but they stay dry. And the other key to this is to wear, anytime you want your feet to breathe, as long as you have a breathable boot, like a Gore-Tex boot or a competitor's version of Gore-Tex, the key is to wear a wool sock. And I don't mean like a fake wool sock, a shitty wool sock like this from the dollar store. No, you have to wear high quality wool socks, like for skiing ideally, like a merino blend, the best you can get, and they're really expensive. But if you look around and you keep your eyes open, especially in the off season, you can get some for really cheap. Winners is a really good place to find fucking ski socks, or Marshalls. Sometimes even the dollar store has them. All right, but they have to be good. They have to be some part wool, and ideally be made that you pull them up to your knees, because these are high boots. And any low quality sock that's made of cotton, first of all, as soon as your feet sweat, even though they don't sweat that much in boots like these, if you're not wearing a good sock, your foot's gonna sweat in the cotton sock and it's gonna stay wet all fucking day, and then you're gonna get frozen even in the summer. So that's gonna happen no matter what boot you wear. So you wear a fucking wool sock, a good wool sock, and no matter how fucking wet it gets with sweat, wool wicks fucking moisture really quickly. So combined with the Gore-Tex of the boot, you're gonna be doing really fucking good. Now, I've had Gore-Tex boots before, and I've had competitors' versions like Dry Max or like whatever, fucking Hollow Fill 2, other shit like that. I like Gore-Tex the best, but it's a bit more pricey. But, you know, as you can probably gather, I'm pretty particular and methodical about the way I use my gear. So for me, Gore-Tex works fucking beautifully. And I've worn these all day in the summer for over 10 hours a day. Now, look, it doesn't happen often, because I work for myself, and part of the joy of working for yourself is that you don't have to work 10 hours a day every day no matter what, but that's also a downside. Sometimes you're there for 10, 12, 14 hours, or you gotta go back the next fucking day. But anyway, I digress. So I've worn these 10 hours a day in the summer, no fucking problem, man. They keep my feet really fucking nice. Very minimal blisters. You only get blisters if you're doing something like excessive, usually after too much walking in these. So I've worn them 10 hours a day in the summer, no problem. And I've also worn them 10 hours a day in the fucking winter. Minus 25. I don't like working colder than that. I don't even like working in minus 25. But wearing them in minus 25 for 10 hours a day, snow up to my knees, again, you know, with snow pants over the chainsaw protective pants. But the boots kept me dry. They kept me dry and they kept me warm. Again, good fucking ski socks. It's possible at lunchtime, if you're doing this in the winter, you're gonna have to go inside and change your socks. But that's another point. With these boots, or with any boots, ideally, you want to dry them out after you use them, because they're thick suede. Even though they have Gore-Tex, they're thick suede. They offer steel toe, I believe steel heel, steel shank for the spikes, and chainsaw protection. So I believe there's some Kevlar in there. So even though you don't notice your feet getting hot or sweating during the day, and they do a pretty good job of keeping you oblivious of that fact, at the end of the day, like if you have to wear them, you know, like 2 days in a row, which is going to happen often, you're either going to want to put them out like as soon as you get home in the heat, in the sun, and let them air out a little bit, or have some sort of boot dryer. I used to use a hair dryer on cold, and I duct taped like a tube from a vacuum cleaner, and I would just do that. Not hot, but just cold. So again, take care of them, and they'll take care of you. And I mentioned the Gore-Tex and shit and the wool socks because all that's really important. It's really important. You know, it's bad enough that if you're wearing protective pants, it's like wearing fucking snow pants in the summer, and you know, it can kick your fucking ass. So treat your body properly and drink plenty of water, and listen to the signs if you're getting too tired. So I like these for spiking, but I find the heel is not big enough. Even though they're made exclusively for spiking, like pretty much, even though they say they're all around, but that's their main use, they're really bulky. But I find the heel is a little bit small. Now, you can dip your heels, that helps, but what's happened to me a couple of times is that the stirrup from my spike slid off my heel, and this happened to me in the middle of the tree, and it's kind of frustrating. It's kind of frustrating. There are a couple of different ways you can put it back, but again, it fucking sucks. So I don't like that. They could have either a larger heel or more of a depression. I'll show you on this one. Well, they could have cut more into it here, I guess. Just made the spikes hold. And another thing is that I guess this is where all the Gore-Tex is, but this is foam, kind of. It's kind of like suede actually, but it's really soft suede. It feels like foam. And this is like nylon mesh, and this is neoprene here, which is cool, but this here is really not tough. Now granted, it didn't break until I wore it with the pants with the elastic cuffs, but Mark has a pair of Stein Defender. He just got them, and we're going to be reviewing those too soon also. And the backs on his are leather, so I like the idea of the leather better. I think it's a bit tougher, but we're going to see. Test of time. So spiking, that's the only thing I don't like. The heels could be a little bit bigger. For trimming, I fucking love them. I fucking love them. They're also made to not get stuck in the crotch. So if you climb in regular work boots, as I used to do, I climbed in Royers, which are pretty good, man, but they're not for climbing. But they have a big heel, so I like them. So if you climb in regular work boots, especially if you trim with no spikes, which we do all the time here. We don't wear spikes when we trim. Like, you're not allowed, A, and B, like, there's no reason to. If you can get away without doing it, then you just become a better climber. And you get really comfortable hanging from the rope. Occasionally, if we're taking down a big stem, like a stem completely, then we can wear spikes while we're on that stem if we need to maneuver, but it's rare. Most of the times we trim just doubled rope technique, transitioning, learning some SRT now also because it's good to have. But I've worn these trimming countless trees, man. They're awesome for trimming. Again, a little bit heavy. If you're used to climbing in little tiny like hikers, then you're gonna find these heavy. But man, go back to wearing your work boots and you're not gonna understand how you were able to work in them before. You'll be slipping and sliding all over the tree. These, man, you put them right up to the bark and you walk up, and I promise you, man, like, this is one of those pieces of equipment that you can't wait to use. And I've been wearing them for a year and I still feel like that. I still can't wait to use them. I can't wait to put them on. And another little trick is don't drive in them. So I go to the job in my running shoes, or I used to go in my ground boots, but these are becoming my ground boots. I'll explain why. Let the scooter go past. So normally I go to the job in my running shoes. I don't walk down the stairs in these. You'll see. It's really hard to walk down the stairs. You can do it, but you kind of have to walk on your heels. Once they start getting comfortable, it means that they're pretty much like, not finished, but you want this part to stay stiff as long as you can. It makes spiking a lot more responsive. And what I do like, it's nice to have a boot that you can do everything with, as opposed to a boot that's only made for spiking, that's only made for the ground, or that's only made for trimming, or only made for SRT. Now, yeah, I know, this is mainly for spiking, and you should avoid it on the ground unless you purposely walk on your heels all the time and avoid the pavement. And this is, again, a year of working like that. And I use my regular work boots for the ground, so I'd roll up to the job in those, and then when it was climbing time, I'd change into these. And a little trick, this is a boot bag. It's for skiing, and it's made to hold boots and a helmet. So if you don't know where to put your boots, they go right in the boot bag. And then however you want to put your helmet, I usually put it visor up. I used to put it in a pillowcase, but this visor is so scratched. There's no point in protecting it anymore. And you have room for your boots, you have room for a helmet. I even have room for another thing, which is my throw bag kit with my anyway, it needs to be retied right now, but I have my little carabiners. That's another thing too. I didn't make this, you know, but I assembled it for I don't know, man. I have legit throw bags and legit throw line, but the actual box and the carabiners cost me about $5. So I'll talk to you about that in another video, and I'll show you guys the first throw bag that I made. So as for the boots, final review, I really like them. I really like them. Like, they're a fucking pleasure to wear. And I've always bought high quality work boots for all my other jobs and stuff, and if you treat your feet properly, especially if you're on your feet all day, it makes all the difference. Now after a year, the only places that have worn out are the backs here, and the seam here started to come undone slightly, but not really. But I just got carried away and welded it shut anyway. And another trick also to keep your feet dry is when you take your boots off after the day's work, put the laces inside the boots, because the laces are what drag on the ground, and then people end up stepping on the laces with dirty and wet shoes, especially in the winter. And anyway, so keep the laces inside your boots, and it also keeps your socks dry also by not stepping on wet fucking disgusting laces. So I really like these boots. And another fucking complaint that I have is that this thing here snapped off, and it snapped off after around 3 months of use. And I went to the store that I bought them at, and I wasn't demanding a refund or anything like that. I just told them, hey look, the little fucking lace loop snapped off. What can I do to get it fixed? Is there a special like shoemaker that you send your stuff to or whatever? You know, I said I don't mind paying. So they said let's check with the company and we'll get back to you. And they called Haix, and they said yeah, Haix will replace your boots for you. No problem. So the good folks at Haix, this is why I'm using these as my ground boots now, kind of, because the good folks at Haix gave me a brand new fucking pair, and I wanted them lime green. I wanted them lime green at first, but they didn't have them, and they gave me a brand new pair of boots on the condition that I bring back the old ones. So I brought back the old ones, and they gave me the new ones, and they told me as long as I kept it on the DL, I could keep the old ones too. So I did, and that was almost a year ago. And I've been using these all fucking year, man. And I got a lot of good use out of them, and I can't wait to use these ones. Oh, they smell so good. They smell so good. And the laces, oh, the colors of the laces match too. Guys, man, these are fucking awesome boots. And if you're interested, do yourselves a favor if you're considering it, or if you're considering, you know, this type of boot. Like a mainly spiking yet all-terrain boot for tree work with chainsaw protection and steel toe. It's really comfortable to use and looks fucking amazing. Then choose these ones. And anyway, I hope this was helpful. And anyone from Haix, send me some free shit. Have a good one. How was that?
Good.